You've just entered room 13A, a place where real nightmares live. Close the door behind you if you can. Santa Claus is supposed to be a symbol of joy, a magical figure who brings gifts, laughter, and warmth during the holidays. But sometimes, behind the red suit and white beard, there's something much darker. Over the years, people have used Santa's costume to hide their true intentions. And what they've done while wearing it will change how you look at Christmas forever. These aren't urban legends. These aren't creepy stories to tell around the tree. These are real cases of people who dressed as Santa and became killers. These are the disturbing cases of real killer Santas you've never heard of. Case: the Covina Massacre. It was Christmas Eve, 2008, in Covina, California. The Ortega family had gathered for their annual Christmas Eve party. There were about 25 people in the house. At around 11:30 p.m., there was a knock at the door. The kids ran to open it, excited for a late visitor on Christmas Eve. It was Santa, or at least it looked like Santa. Red suit, white beard, big smile. But this wasn't Santa. This was Bruce Pardo, the ex-husband of one of the Ortega daughters. And he wasn't there to spread holiday cheer. He was holding a gift-wrapped box, but inside wasn't a present. It was a homemade flamethrower. The moment the door opened, Pardo pulled out 2 handguns and began firing. Panic erupted. People screamed, dove for cover, tried to escape. When he ran out of bullets, he unwrapped the box and unleashed a blast of fire inside the living room. In just minutes, 9 people were dead. Pardo fled the scene, later taking his own life. The image of Santa, the one kids had been thrilled to see just moments earlier, was now burned into the minds of the survivors as the worst nightmare imaginable. This wasn't a man who snapped in the heat of the moment. This was planned. Police later found Pardo had prepped the costume months in advance and had rented gear specifically for the attack. The Covina Massacre remains one of the deadliest Christmas tragedies in history. Case: the Santa Strangler of Arizona, Phoenix, Arizona. December 2014. Neighbors saw a man dressed as Santa walking down the street near a small suburban home. No one thought much of it. It was Christmas week, after all. But when police were called to that home later that evening, they found a horror scene. Inside, 2 women had been strangled to death, and in the living room sat the man in the Santa suit, drinking from a bottle of whiskey. His name was David Munoz, and he didn't deny what he'd done. He said it was a gift for his victims, his twisted way of ending their suffering. Investigators discovered the women had filed multiple restraining orders against Munoz over the years. He had been obsessed with one of them, showing up at her workplace and house despite repeated warnings. But no one expected him to do what he did, and certainly not dressed as Santa. The Santa costume wasn't for disguise. When asked why he wore it, he told police, "I wanted my face to be the last thing they saw. I wanted them to remember Christmas with me." It's one of the most chilling statements ever recorded in a police interview. Munoz was sentenced to life in prison without parole. To this day, people in that neighborhood refuse to put up Santa decorations. They say the sight brings back too many memories. Case: the mall Santa murder. Most people take their kids to see Santa at the mall for a picture and a candy cane. But in 2011, in Toronto, Canada, that tradition turned deadly. Jean-Marc Kaiser had been hired as a seasonal mall Santa. By all accounts, he was great with kids. Polite, jolly, full of Christmas spirit. But what no one knew was that Kaiser had a long, violent history and a dangerous obsession with a coworker. She worked in a store near his Santa booth. Kaiser became infatuated with her, leaving her notes, accidentally, running into her on breaks, and trying to get her number. She told mall security. They told him to stop, but he didn't. On Christmas Eve, just after closing, Kaiser followed her to the parking garage, still in full Santa costume. And that's where he attacked her. When police arrived, they found Kaiser sitting against the wall, still wearing the Santa suit, with the woman's lifeless body next to him. In his twisted confession, he said, "Santa always gives what people want for Christmas. I wanted her." The judge called it one of the most monstrous abuses of a symbol of trust he had ever seen. Case: the San Antonio Santa stabbing. San Antonio, Texas. December 2019. Police received a frantic 911 call on Christmas morning from a woman screaming that Santa was in the house. When they arrived, they found her boyfriend in a Santa costume, covered in blood. He had stabbed two of her relatives during a drunken argument. Neighbors said the man had been wearing the costume all night, not for fun, but as part of a bizarre game he played when drinking. Santa doesn't take no for an answer. The woman survived. Her family wasn't so lucky. It's a stark reminder that sometimes the scariest monsters don't look like monsters at all. Sometimes they look like Santa. Case: The mystery of the Santa gunman. Our last case remains unsolved. December 2017. Detroit, Michigan. Witnesses reported a man in a Santa costume walking through an apartment complex with a duffel bag. Minutes later, they heard gunshots. When police arrived, they found two men dead in the hallway. The man in the Santa costume? Gone. Security cameras captured him walking out of the building calmly, still wearing the red suit, and disappearing into the night. The bag was never found. The gun was never recovered. And to this day, no one knows who he was or why he killed those men. All they know is that he was dressed as Santa. When you think of Santa, you think of kindness, family, magic. But in these cases, the red suit was just a mask, a disguise for some of the most horrifying crimes imaginable. The next time you see Santa at the mall or on your front porch, just remember, sometimes you don't really know who's under that beard. Which of these cases shocked you the most? Let me know in the comments. And whatever you do, stay safe this holiday season.